Welcome to this Ask Bros Rankcast. Once again, for those of you who follow the Hot Topic shows and the shows that Manny puts together, I've left the Toby as a cunt banner running. Well, I mean, true as ever, definitely. But I mean, I'll take it down, Toby. If you're listening, you're a cunt. But basically, Manny has done what Manny has done to us on a number of occasions and organised a show, organised a Hot Topic. We've even gone as far as to organising a very special VIP guest for him in Stan the Man. And Manny is on Black Man time. We don't know what he's doing. Yesterday, he was angry about tasteless fried chicken on top of plain waffles that cost him 12 quid. We don't know if he's still angry about that, and that's why he hasn't arrived for his show. But once again, it's been left to fucking Muggins here to host a show that he has no idea what he's really doing about. So whatever Manny had on the agenda can go fucking jump, because now we're going to do what my show is. So most likely we're going to talk about heavy metal, make dick jokes, and shout at Ursel. How does that sound, boys?
Sounds good to me.
Anyway, what we are actually here to do is to break down the transfers, break down the transfer window, and have a bit of a chat about, I guess, the overarching elements. This is a bit of a lead on from Manny's last Hot Topic, where he was looking back at the things that have happened over the past stretch of time that have led us to the position we're in. So talking about looking back at Wenger, looking back at Gazidis, looking back at Mislintat, Raul, and how those things have left us lumbered with a number of players who we seem not to be able to get rid of, and have really led us down the path of, I guess, Mike, having to sell to buy, which may have ended up being the thing that stopped us with the UR deal. Scunny, just starting off, just kick it off for us. How did you feel at the end of the transfer window? How did you feel as far as, whether it's an out of 10 rating or the business that we've done? There seems to be a very mixed, as there always is with our fan base, seems to be a lot of mixed emotion on the toilet that is Twitter.
I'm happy that we've got a decent signing in Thomas Partey, but I'm not overly so optimistic the fact that we didn't get rid of anybody. We've still got the same players that we've been calling to leave the club for God knows how long now. And unfortunately, they're still there. It's looking like the majority of these players are going to run out their contract. So I can't, for me, transfer-wise, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 if I was going to go out of 10, just because the 6, we have got some good players come in. We've got Gabriel, who's looking fantastic. We've just got Thomas Partey. I just can't. I would probably give it more if we got rid of the likes of Mustafi, who was due to go out, Kolasinac, who was due to go out. Mm-hmm. Instead, we've got loanees gone out in Torreira and Guendouzi. So for me, it's not. I'm not overly optimistic about it. It's nice to have something new. It's nice that Edu and Arteta are singing from the same sort of hymn sheet and thinking, right, this is where we need to strengthen the squad. Obviously, they was looking for midfielders, so they knew the midfield was needed to be strengthened. Unfortunately, we only got one out of the 2 that we were after. And like you said, because there was no outgoings, we couldn't fund the next incoming.
Stan, was Kolasinac and Mustafi ever going anywhere? I mean, we nearly had a little bit of a party once we heard that some poor peasant was willing to give us, 11 million for Kolasinac, and I think it was even as high as 13 million for Mustafi. There's a lot of vitriol, I guess, towards the board still on Twitter about these guys not moving on. Were they ever going anywhere? I mean, on those wages, at those, I guess, age demographics as well?
Well, this kind of goes all the way back to something that you touched on in your intro. It goes back to the Wenger and Gazidis days. You bringing in players who are on maybe, say, 60 grand, and then you bring them in and treble their wages. And that's what happened in a lot of these players. I think Kolasinac and Socrates, players like that. I mean, who's going to pay these wages? And if you look at it just on the pretext that these are jobs at the end of the day, who leave their job to go and take up another job that's going to pay you substantially a lot less I mean, we're talking of like thousands and thousands of pounds difference. So I get the anger that we've got a lot of these players, but you have to. You can only be angry at the players for so much, because a lot of these players are quite limited in what they can do for us. We know that, but if they were managed to negotiate these kind of contracts, in the words of Mesut Ozil, he signed a 4-year contract and not 3, and that should be respected. And I'm not Ozil's biggest fan in the slightest, but we're talking about pounds, shillings, and pence. What are they supposed to do? And that's why now we've snookered ourselves, because we're a self-sustaining model, meaning that what we bring in is what goes out to bring in players, and we can't get anything coming in.
We're a self-sustaining model that is incredibly imbalanced on the wage bill comparative to, I guess, the wage bill comparative to the buyback from the players, or the delivery that the players have given us as far as performances, minutes, even breaking it down. We often see all the stuff online about Mesut Ozil and his amazing assist giving and his chances created, but his last 2 seasons he's delivered sweet baby fuck all.
Last 4 seasons,
yeah, he's delivered absolutely nothing as far as actual output goes. So, I think you put it well, Stan, when you say that we have snookered ourselves, because it's a really solvent analogy. Because we are in a position where we're kind of damned if we do and damned if we don't. Scunny, a lot of people are talking about tearing up of contracts. We should just tear up their contracts. Number one, well, we can't legally tear up their contracts. They are, Socrates, I think Stan Socrates went from €40,000 a week to £90,000 a week in a single move.
Yeah,
Mike, that's not peanuts.
I've actually got the players' wages in front of me now, and Socrates is on 92 grand a week. The problem is, and similar to what Stan was saying, it's not the players' fault why they're on this much money a week. It was, they negotiated it and they got the money. The problem is the old regimes that we had in the Wenger era, the Gazidis era, and the Raul era. These are the issues that we've had. Now we've got rid of them cunts. I'm going to put it nicely. We're starting to see we're starting to see some differences, in players' wages. For instance, I'm looking at players' wages here, and Saka just renegotiated a contract recently, didn't he? That kid is only on 30,000 a week, which, to be fair, for an 18-year-old kid 19-year-old kid, who's looking really, really promising, you'd think that that's actually about right. But if you can imagine the old regimes, this kid will probably be about 140, 150,000 a week by now. And this, we're starting to see some sensible contracts being given to these players. Like, for instance, Martinelli and Saka, they're both on 30,000 a week for young, promising kids. That's sensible. That's sensible business to me. That's a proper business model. You're only 19. You're only 19. We're only going to give you X amount of money up until you start progressing, which you would. You won't probably see him progressing onto the 100,000 mark until they at least hit maybe early 20s.
And then it gives you an option, Mike, to extend contracts.
Yeah, exactly.
So you sign someone up on a reasonable contract on 3 years or 5 years, and you put together ratcheted contracts, for example, where you say X amount of appearances, you're going to go up. England call-ups, you're going to go out. And we see this in other sports. We see this in so many other sports where there are many more bonuses built in to the contracts, like I said, based around playing time and ratcheted things. But instead we go and give these old blokes, and actually I want to bring it back, Stan, to, I guess, modern football and the modern football models and the different models and the different approaches that you can take. And I guess under the end of Wenger's approach, Sven Mislintat, who we've got to dig into because a lot of people polished his shaft heavily, and I don't think any of his signings have have done anything particularly amazing for us from
I
that period.
may be guilty of buffing that shaft a little bit.
Yeah. I think we all were. I think we all
One
worked
sign.
somewhat.
You can argue one signing who's done stuff.
Yeah, but I mean,
Other than that, it goes from
as
the
a
peak,
group, when
and
he
it goes
left,
straight downhill, but he goes like that.
when he left, there was this, outcry from Arsenal fans, as we do as a fan base, guys. We love to dream about hand jobs from ex-girlfriends at Arsenal. If anyone leaves, they're instantly amazing.
Yeah.
Anyone who comes in is almost instantly shit. But Stan, the change in model, I guess, is something that's very visible. And I guess I'm asking you if you think that it has been forced, the change in model, from us going for established players, maybe not Premier League players that we always wanted, but established players that we could get in, that we could afford on lower transfers, and then giving them stupid wages, to maybe a new model now, which seems to have been get the kids through, get them on good contracts. If they're successful, lock them down long term.
See, when I look at what the club is doing when it comes to salary and what they're planning for the future, when I look at it, I receive mixed messages from the club. Because on the one hand, you've got the club saying, well, look, we're a club now that's paying Championship League wages, and we've not been in the Champions League now for 3 or 4 seasons. And we're going to implement a pay structure as an incentive to get us back into the Champions League. If we don't get in the Champions League, you lose 12.5%. If we only get the Europa League, then you only lose 7.5%. So if the push is to get into the Champions League, the question that you have to ask is, what we've done in this transfer window, do you believe hand in heart that what we have got now is enough to get us into the Champions League? Because if it is, then it's good business, right? You can justify paying Willian 220 grand a week. You can justify the pay rise that you've given to Aubameyang. You can justify, the other exorbitant, wages that you've put out there, Thomas Partey, for example. But if you don't believe that we can get into the Champions League, then why have we only gone halfway? If they aim to get into the Champions League, and we've given Aubameyang a contract and we've splashed out on Partey and paying him good wages, I believe that we still are a little bit short. So why didn't we go the whole hog and finish the job and bring in a central attacking player?
Well,
I think that with what we've got, we could get into the Champions League. I don't think it's nailed on. I think that we could make the Europa League.
Dan, I think Stan, I think for us to get into the Champions League this year, for us to take that 4th spot, it's not going to be beholden on us playing well. It will be beholden on people who are further down their path towards that, having a shit show. Now, whether that was very big on Chelsea in the preseason, I'm looking at now and I'm thinking your manager might hold you back. Your coach might hold you back from getting there, because Fat Frank's not looking like he's particularly good. I'm looking at Man U, who have made a host of very strange signings, like Edison Cavani, boys. I mean,
they're in the position we were not long ago of going for desperate signings.
Big wages, desperate signing old players. But that's what I mean. It would be beholden on them to fuck it up for us to take 4th. I'm with you, Stan, completely. And people on Twitter saying, "Oh, because we signed Thomas Partey, we're going to win the league." Like, fucking please.
It's going to help us. It's going to improve us, but it's not. We haven't finished the job. So the point I'm trying to make is, why are we sanctioning still, these vast wages on players, when we also were talking about having pay cuts? For me, it's a mixed message. If they'd gone out and bought one, maybe another player, then I could look at that and say, okay, I see what we're doing here. We're making a push right now for the Champions League, and looking what we've got at our disposal, I think we can do it. But I don't see that now. I don't. I think we could make the Europa League, and as you say, if other people fuck up, we may, sneak into the Champions League.
I definitely think, Mike, we're going to be playing in a mini league from 4th to 7th this year. And people got at me because when we were coming up against Liverpool, I was saying, well, it's a free hit. It doesn't really matter. And people saying, well, it does matter. You've got to get the W. And I said, well, it doesn't. It's a free hit. If we get a point there, that would be a point on the calendar that we would have gone through, and we would have said Anfield away. Let's not forecast for any points there. Let's forecast. For me, the games this year that we must win are Everton, Leicester, Tottenham. That's the mini league that we're playing in. We've got to go push it at Man U.
We've got at least win 4 from the big 6 teams.
That exactly.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think, like you said, Liverpool slightly too far off. I think what happened to them against Villa was, just one of them things. It happened to us against Man United.
Four deflections and 3 games in a week. That's all I have about the Liverpool.
Well, it's just one of them things that you wouldn't probably see. It's 2020 for fuck's sake. Anything can fucking happen this year. And it's a case. I think it's just one of them things. I don't think you'll see it again for a while now against the Liverpool team. Anyway, so, but as you were saying and stuff like that, I get where you guys are coming from. Thomas Partey is not the sole answer to our issues. The issues that we've got is we've still got a lot of people in this squad. You got to remember, this squad that we're still playing now finished 8th last season.
And like I said,
we've only got a few extras. If you think about it, we've only got Gabriel who's new to playing. We've got El Nene back, which we could probably talk about sooner or later in this show, and then we've got Thomas Partey, and that's the only real 2. And Willian, sorry. So there's 3 signings that you're going to see probably a little bit more of, but Willian is going to be. I don't think he's going to play every game. He's not had the best last couple of games has not been his best. So. Because he's an older player, you got to treat these older players differently to what you do younger players. But it is, as we've said before, look at Aubameyang. You don't see him for half the game, then he just pops up out of nowhere, and it's the post, or it's the back of the net.
Or like his last 2 games, he never pops up at all and literally does sweet fuck all. So if he's not scoring, he's not getting points.
Exactly.
Mike, dragging it back to what Stan was saying about, I guess, the imbalances and the way that we have spent our money. So for most people, they saw the gaping holes for us being the Thomas Partey position and the Aouar position. And that's why everyone got so far behind this concept that we were going to get these 2 players. And clearly, obviously, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to realize that we're on a spend what you buy philosophy at Arsenal. Sorry, spend what you earn philosophy at Arsenal. And Mike, would you agree that most likely, I guess in my opinion, agree or disagree, the Partey money had always been put aside for Partey? I don't buy into the fact that we somehow went back in for him at the end of the transfer window because we couldn't get Aouar. But I would assume that the Partey money was set aside and then Aouar was based on us clearing out the dross that we were unable to sell to come up with the capital. Clearly, the structured deal wasn't something they were after.
You see, I'm slightly different on that one to you. I think it was either going to be either or. I didn't think we was going to get them both this window just because that we couldn't get rid of anybody. And that is the big reason. You got to think what we got off our wage bill. Matteo Guendouzi's on 40,000 a week. And Touré is on 75. So there's 15,000 a week there just off the wage bill by getting. Although they've only gone on loan.
What's that? 1.3 mil a year. Wait, if I fuck that up, that would be per month. It's way more than that.
I know that we're paying all of Guendouzi's wage, but are we paying all of Torreira's? Because sometimes it's like a 40-60 split.
Well, we got 4 million. We got 4 million in loan fee for Guendouzi. Yeah. Okay. And I think we got, I haven't seen it come out yet. I think we got a very reasonable fee from Torreira as well. So, this is where when you start looking at the intricacies.
That was part of the Partey deal. I think Torreira was a sweetener. So you got to look at that. If he's a sweetener, surely they've got Partey's wages off their bill. Surely they'll be able to afford the 75,000 a week for Torreira. Although he's only on loan. So that's probably a bit of a sweetener. But yeah, I think it was going to be either or, like I said a minute ago, because we just can't get rid of these people. The amount of wages that we could have got off the books by getting rid of some of these players, that is the big issue. And this is why we couldn't go in for Aouar. I agree with you. We probably had that money set aside for Partey, but that was a whole. I think they tried a bit to try and bring the money down a little bit to try and save themselves some, so they didn't have to fork out for the full transfer for the full transfer fee, should I say, or his contract.
Stan, do you think that it is greed from Arsenal, the reason why we haven't moved on the Mustafis and the Kolasinaks? Do you think it is greedy, or it is unreasonable of us to expect that we are going to get 11 million and 13 million pounds for players who are on, I think they're both on over 100k as far as wages go? Should we, like so many people on Twitter have been saying, have just put them on the market for 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, and then have the wages kind of, I guess, included in that as a ball of what would have been a regulated transfer fee?
Sometimes you got to bite the bullet. I suppose it depends on how bad you want that person away. And for me, if we are going to bite a bullet on anyone at the club and have to suck it up, then that would be our highest paid player, of not Aubameyang, the other one, right? That would be, I would bite the bullet and somehow forego that. Go home, don't come back. We'll keep paying your money into your bank account every month, like we usually do with your pay, but don't come back until it, and you'll get paid until it's done, and do it something like that. But I don't like the idea of ripping up players' contracts, because what happened was with Mkhitaryan, we could have got 10 million for him just before COVID hit, and we turned our nose up at it, and now we ended up ripping up his contract. And then what happens is it breeds, other players see that. Socrates knocked on the door, didn't he? And apparently said, well, why can't you rip up my contract? Players see that, and then they look at that as an option. I get it if the club wants to make that call for whatever reasons, and I think it has to be a really bad situation like Ozil's to do that. But I think it's a really bad thing then when you see players thinking, oh, okay, I can have some of that, and then they have to go in there for that conversation. And if it's
so, you're talking about, Stan, you're talking about paid out contracts.
Yeah.
Able to move on and go and
yeah,
go free.
I'm not too. If the club wants to make a call, say for in the Ozil situation, because that's a bad situation, I get it, but I don't want it to be a common practice where players start knocking on the door, requesting it, and when they're denied, then you've got a bad egg around the club who's kind of like mumbling and groaning, going, "Well, he got paid out. Why can't I get paid out?" And you've got somebody like that around the dressing room. So I think it's a very dodgy ground.
I don't think the Mkhitaryan one, I don't think he got paid out. I think it was by mutual consent by him and the club so he could play football. Because if he came back to Arsenal, there would be no guarantee he would have got in the squad. But obviously, he wanted to move to Roma.
Quits, and then Roma continued to pay him a wage rather than they said, here's a lump sum, fuck off.
It depends, because like I say, as far as I'm aware of, it was by mutual consent. So I don't know if any money was handed to him from Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? I think,
right.
As far as I'm aware, it was, yes, I want to go to Roma. Will you let me? Right. The only way you can do it is by mutual consent. They probably have said the same to Ozil and Socrates, but obviously, that for all we know, they could be like, well, I'm not. Ozil's what, 18 million a year he's on.
Yeah.
So
Jesus.
there's no way he's going to give. Yeah, there's no way he's going to give that.
Stop making it real. Stop making it real by telling me the money.
I don't walk away from a fiver. So
this is it, But I think for Mkhitaryan, I think he did the right thing for him. He wanted to play football, and
can I just say, Mike, that's the difference.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to say. That's what I was getting into, but you just fucking interrupted, haven't you?
Sorry, champion.
But no, he wanted to play football. The thing with Ozil is he'd rather stick around like a fucking Veruca. And, that's what he is. That's why he wants to stick around and just annoy the shit out of you. He's one of them gnats that fly around in the summer at a barbecue. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Look, I've got my theories on Ozil. I've made my theories clear. I think Ozil is different from the other guys. I don't see why Kolasinac would be saying, I want to stay and fight for my position. Right? There's no reason for him to. His wife's gone. He had all the issues with the stabbings and, all that stuff. I don't understand why that deal couldn't get done. And if you're Arsenal, you would just be in a position where you would be getting better. That's why I never thought that the deal for Kolasinac on 11 million would be happening, because anyone in world football with their eye on this would be looking at Arsenal squad, looking at the dross, looking at the position they're in, and basically coming in and saying, look, we will absorb the wages over a 3-year contract, but you will take the hit in the transfer fee. We will essentially give you 1 million, 2 million, 3 million for a player that, regardless, you can say what you want about Kolasinac and his skill. Given wages not being a key part of that decision, if he was on, say, a reasonable wage, like 40 grand a week or something like that, he would be worth 12 million in any transfer market. I mean, fucking Liverpool have sold, just complete and total dross for 20 odd million time and time again. Yeah. So, but when it comes to Ozil, my theory is that he will retire at the end of this contract. My theory is that Arsenal have done everything to remove him, and that he has no desire to play football anymore, no desire to go to another country, to go to Turkey, to go to America and keep playing. I think that he wants to sit on his ass. He's probably due retirement. He's signed that contract. It's on massive money. He'll wait for that contract to end. And then Mesut Ozil will most likely hang up his boots at the end of it and go gently into the night to play fucking Fortnite on Twitch.
So basically then, this is his pension right now.
Yeah.
So
we paid him a retirement fund.
Possibility, because I always thought, and I said it when we offered him that stupid contract, which I was against at the time. I was like, get rid of him and Sanchez. That's what I would do. But when I said at the time, how this will play out, he will stay to the very end of this contract, and then he'll go to Turkey on a free, where they'll have a nice house waiting for him in one of the best locations, on a cliff somewhere with the sea, and he'll just have a little kickabout every now and again in Turkey. That's what I thought it would happen, and he would still be getting a nice wage from them in Turkey as well. Maybe not as much as that we're paying, but still maybe 100 grand coming in.
Yeah, I just feel like if he wanted to play football still, there would have been some way that it would have been worked out. Whether we, like you said, paid the entirety of the wage. If we paid 200 grand of the wage, 250 grand of the wage, and someone else...
I think it's on 250. I think the 350 is based on bonuses.
Bonuses, yeah. So however that might be structured. I mean, look, I don't think it is on the club to produce contracts where we're going to say things like go away on a free and we'll pay the entire wage, or people talking about, like you were talking about, Stan, the idea of tearing up contracts. It's bad governance to be in a position where you're saying we are literally going to tear up your contract. We're going to pay you out however much of the remainder of the part of your contract. I mean, look, there are questions around, what I call in my job, when you have cancerous people. I'm often very fast to remove people like that within my own, structure, where I'm like, no, you're terrible. If someone comes to me and hands me a resignation, I very, very rarely let that person see out that period of time, because I know what's going to happen. Once that person has decided that they no longer want to be there, whether they are completely trustworthy and have been a hard worker for many, many years, I've always been of the opinion that no longer want to be here. We will start the process of getting you out the door. Yeah. And I'll often give people their paycheck for 2 weeks and say, thank you very much. Off you go into the night.
Not every employer is going to take the Aaron Ramsey example and still continue to play for the badge. That's very rare, right?
Yeah, incredibly. And it's not like, someone like Mesut Ozil will have ever given you any intent of that. I don't know how we always end up getting so deep on Mesut. It's probably because all you fucking donuts on Twitter have started writing tweets like, now we've signed Thomas Partey. Is it time to play Mesut Ozil? Get Mesut Ozil back in the team. Check yourselves, motherfuckers.
Because it was only a few seasons ago that, it was because we had Oliver Giroud in front of Ozil, which is why it wasn't happening. And he's had Lacazette and Aubameyang, and it's still not happening. So now it's what's behind him, not what's in front of him.
Yeah, but it's okay. People still put up stats saying he makes 3.2 key passes fucking game.
3.2.
3.2 key passes per game, apparently.
Oh, fucking hell. Give him more money. Shit. Yeah. 3.2 passes per game.
What was last season? 3 assists? 3 assists for the entire season?
Yeah.
What else did Manny want to dig into as I kind of roll through this? I guess we should probably start talking about something positive because, as usual, as a fan base, we seem to have gone back to the things that didn't happen. Obviously, like we said, the Kolasinac's, the Mustafis are still there. Some strange ones before we move on, guys. I would have assumed that we would have at least done some loan business, whether that be Callum Chambers out on loan. I'm now not looking at getting Rob Holding out because I think he's playing himself into some form on that right side for us. We get to see ESR. Joe Willock is still there. We brought in another midfielder, which means Joe Willock goes further down the pecking order on that number 8 position that exists. It's just wrapping up our lack of outs. Stan, surprised not to see us go into the loan market for some of these kids.
Yeah, I thought maybe a Reece Nelson might have gone out on loan. Or maybe a Willock would have gone out on loan, and even someone like Socrates, he could do a job for somebody, right?
Why not put Socrates out on loan? Why not put Kolasinac out on loan? Yeah,
because if we can't sell them, then you might as well just get them out on loan rather than just have them cluttering up the place. But I am happy that the Williams Saliba loan didn't happen because you remember that season, I think it was 1 or 2 seasons ago, where we sent Callum Chambers off to Fulham.
And we immediately required him.
I thought that we really needed him, not that long afterwards, and we left ourselves a little bit short. So in a way, I'm glad that we've got a couple of bodies that can fill in for us, but it all depends on who he's going to register for the squad, who he's going to pick, because he does have quite a lot of choice now, especially in defence, of who he can choose.
Scunny, were you surprised like I was? I mean, not to see someone like Joe. Joe Willock's my one who I've been banging on for months and months and months. He has to go and play regular football, whether it was, I said that he's probably in line to take that move to Germany rather than that move down to the Championship. That's where I would have liked to have seen him gone and got a move like what Ryan Sessegnon has got. I think he's gone off to Hoffenheim. Similar to what we did to Reece Nelson. Really, really surprised that with the knowledge that a midfielder was coming in, that we couldn't find some, deadline deal to get Joe off and playing some football. He's not going to get in front of a lot of the guys.
Yeah, the domestic transfer is still going on. I think that finishes.
That's true. That's true. Actually,
yeah,
that's true.
There's still opportunity for him to go out. All right, it won't be to a European club. It'll be to either a Premiership or Championship. Yeah, so there is still time for something like that to happen for them. If I was to see Joe Willock go anywhere, I think I'd like to see him go to a Championship club rather than a German team. If I'm being honest, I think it'll suit Guendouzi going across there. More than it would Joe Willock.
For me, Mike, I've always thought that there's different moves do different things for people. So a move to the Championship for me is about making a man of a boy. You go down there, you play every 3 days, you get lumps kicked out of you. It's about sending someone down there to come up to the physical level. I don't think with Joe Willock that physical level is an issue with him. He's a big lump, and actually when he does play for us in the midfield, he's quite dominant as far as his size. I often think that a move to the Premier League, provided it's to the right club, is a move for a senior player who's not getting game time. And the reason why I like the moves to Germany is because it is a slightly more lightweight league when you watch it, as in they're not all brutes, all animals. It's more technicality. Yeah, and for me, that's where Joe falls down. Joe falls down on his application of his technique. It's not that he doesn't have the technique, it's when and how he chooses to use that technique. But Scunny, as you said, I didn't really think about it, but yes, the domestic window is still open. So very much we're going to be able to see.
You might see somebody go out, I don't think Reece Nelson will go just because, he does provide cover. You got to think, I know we've got Willian and Pepe on that right-hand side, but, it's a long season, regardless what it is. It's 38 games, plus Europa, plus the Cups. So we're going to need some kind of cover on the wings. We're still waiting for Martinelli to come back. So, and Saka can play in these positions as well. So we're well covered there. And I think that's going to suit us more because it's going to be very physical on the legs for a winger because the way we play, they're constantly running up and down the pitch. What was that?
Lumberkamp just wrote, Willock has sauce. Man can run a lot. That's it. Well done. I love it.
I love his picture as well. That's great. But yeah, and like I say, I think with Willock, yeah, he's just gone further and further down the pecking order. That would be a good move, I think.
Yeah, Willock to Bournemouth. I think West. Look, if I'm looking at clubs, you know, even if I would rather send these guys to Premier League clubs because I think they've already been integrated into the Premiership. So you know, maybe dropping them down to the Championship can sometimes actually do the opposite for them. It can maybe make them feel like they're taking a step backwards. But I'm looking at Fulham's, I'm looking at West Ham's, you know, looking at Leeds's, Sheffield's, Brighton's, you know. But like we always say, Scunny, the move has to be good for the player. We saw that. Do you remember the Serge Gnabry move to West Brom? Was it under Roy Hodgson?
No,
you know,
it was Tony Pulis.
Was it? Was it Pulis then?
Yeah.
Did Roy ever manage at West Brom? No, I fucked that up. It was Pulis. Just for a change, with my incredible fucking journalistic ability. But it was a terrible move for him. We sent an attacking asset down to a team who played boring backfield football, you know, and it ended up not being a good move for him. And he went down there and his attitude was poor. So, you know, we do have
talking about Serge Gnabry.
Yeah. You know,
yeah. Pulis is eating his fucking words now, though, isn't he?
So I think there's even a good shout, but but we can't do it for the exact reason that Mike said, is that we're short in that position. I would still like Eddie Nketiah to go out on loan and have somebody else, another striker, you know, bring in another striker who can come in and give Lacazette a run for his colossal snatch.
Humbo Gumble must watch us because he knows that we love a nickname on the Arse Bros. So for those who listen, we call Granite Xhaka Lieutenant Dan because he ain't got no legs. We're calling El Neni El Sidewaysy, and Humbo Gumble has just come in with a fantastic one that I'm sure Dan Potts will approve of. Colossal Snatch for Kolasinac. He's on a good one.
That's a good one.
Oh, loving it.
But yeah, I would like. I think Eddie, myself, I'm not quite convinced with him yet.
No.
And
I did bring up when we were chatting in the pre-game. I'm not going to attempt to do it now because I realised I'm not technical enough and I fucked it up several times over. But I did bring up in the pre-game the pass map and the touch map for Eddie. And boys, it was skinny, was it not?
Yeah, he wasn't many, let's just say that.
Yeah.
But Lumberkamp is right, though. He did come off the bench and score that important winning goal. And I was glad to do that. You know, that he wasn't just coming off of the bench to pass up some time because we were winning the game, and that was the end of it. He came off the bench and he made a decisive moment for us. So I was pleased about that.
Stan, there is a fuck ton of games. We've got all the Europas starting off in absolutely butt fuck nowhere. We're still in the Carabao. We've got the FA Cup to come. You know, I don't think that everyone's desire to ship everyone out and this idea that you have a starting 11 and the starting 11 is the only thing that matters. I mean, even if you go back to the Wenger era, one of the downfalls of Wenger was that he loved having a 14-man squad, you know, and really only rotating in 3 or 4 guys. I think modern football, you've almost got to be getting up towards 18, 20 players of people who can actually start and actually play and actually come in to different positions. So shipping everyone out of every position makes absolutely no sense. But when you have 9 fucking centre backs, it would make sense to maybe shift on 3 or 4 of them. I think even 5 centre backs is a fucking lot of centre backs to hold in modern football, and they're incredibly imbalanced. So about the halfway point now, boys. So we've had our whinge and our bitch and cried about certain things. I'm sure Manny would have gone much more cutthroat towards the Cronkies and things like that. Look, I heard on Twitter that the Thomas Partey deal was essentially rubber stamped by Stan. So I don't know how much truth there is in that. I think that was a Sky Sports reporter. But I thought what we'd do is we would have a look at our signings. And because we've only made 1 signing in this window, I figured we would actually go back and have a look.
1 signing in deadline day.
One signing in deadline day. I figured we'd actually go back and we'd have a look at the signings coming in from essentially what was the January transfer window as well. So who we've brought in this stretch of time. So we're looking at Cedric. We're looking at Mari, Willian, Ceballos on loan, and obviously we'll finish up with the big man TP. As we kind of come out of this period, Stan, we kind of touched on it at the start of the show that I guess a lot of the shitty players that we had bought in who are still on the books who we can't shift are essentially Ivan Gazidis and Sven Mislintat. We look at the business that we did with Raul first before he left. So the signings of Pablo Mari, which I think was 12 million, was finalized, and the signing of Cedric Suarez. Where do you see these guys fitting in, especially with Pablo Mari and the signing of Gabriel, who looks like he's going to be the rock on the left for us? Granted, Scunny, as you always say, pump the fucking brakes.
When have you ever said that?
I don't know. You said it in the last fucking podcast.
No, I didn't.
Well, something to that effect, you fucking northern cunt.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, you're such a dick.
Stan Palmery, where do you see him coming in back to full fitness on the left? In that wodge of centre backs that we have now.
Pablo Mari for me and Cedric Suarez are two signings that I didn't get at the time, and now looking at the squad that we have, I still don't get it. I mean, we paid about to bring Cedric in. People say, but he was free. He wasn't free. We paid a million or so to Southampton, and we paid his wages at 65 grand a week. And he was injured when he came to the club. So if we really wanted him that badly, right, considering how little he played of that at the end of that season, why didn't we just wait till this window opened and got him for proper free? You know what I'm getting at, and done it that way. So I don't understand that was definitely a case of putting the fucking cart in front of the horse. It makes no sense. You're a guy that you can have for free. You're paying money for him. He's coming from a club that was battling relegation, and the manager didn't look to him to use him. So I don't know what it is that I've missed. I don't understand it, right?
I think there's definitely some Raul backhanders with some super.
I've got a feeling that had Raul's fingerprints all over it. Pablo Mari is another one for me, because if you just look at his career trajectory, am I supposed to believe that he's going to come and crack it in the Premier League? Had we had him on loan for a longer period of time, and we used him, and we're using a loan period to look at this guy and make a fair assessment, I get that, but it just seemed that we brought this guy in, he got injured, and we handed him a 4-year contract, and then 6 months later we bought a replacement for him.
It's also very Arsenal.
So again, is that
we love buying an injured player?
Of Raul.
Yeah,
so out of the signings that we've made, those two, I questioned them on the day, and I'm still questioning them now. With the Willian one, I'm kind of 50-50. I kind of get why we would bring that profile of a player in, but I've just got a sneaky feeling that in around 1.5 to 2 years' time, before the 3 years is up, we will be sat here talking about a player that's on a lot of money, that's not getting any game time because other players are keeping him out of the squad, or a player that's on a hell of a downward trajectory in what he's able to offer us. And we're going to be scratching our heads thinking, well, we've got another year of this and he's on 220. I guarantee that conversation will happen at some point.
I do believe Willian is on less than 100 grand a week,
but with huge bonuses.
But with bonuses,
I looked it up the other day. I got it at 220.
Yeah, I think that'll be about a lot of that will be bonuses,
because there was some chat that Willian got a signing on fee of 10 million, and then the club was saying, we're paying him less than what we're paying him at Chelsea. So it's a good deal. But then there was this rumor that we paid him a 10 million signing on fee, which then if you break it down over the course of the 3-year contract, it would equate to basically paying him 200.
I wonder if that's got to do with financial structures, to do with FFP, like third-party deals, like a signing on fee doesn't go onto your wage bill, therefore it doesn't go onto FFP, so you have to move it. Yeah.
And I get the argument. A lot of people were going, so since when did we start counting signing on fees as part of the salary? I get that. But if that story is true, 10 million is a fucking huge signing on fee. You see what I'm getting at? And it was done in such a way then to allow the player to have a salary of 220 grand a week. then to me that's kind of like when you've got three egg cups and a pea underneath, and you move them around really quickly, and you got to see which one the pea's under. That's a sleight of hand move to me.
Look, no doubt, Scunny, there have been some strange moves made. I think Stan actually put it up in a comment at one of our last podcasts where he said, I don't know whether it will be this year, next year, but at some point we're going to be questioning that Willian deal. I would say we're 3 games into him and having him had a bit of a Ceballos-y first game against Fulham where everyone just got massively erect and thought he was the answer to everything. We're now 3 games in, having a look at, I guess, the type of player that we've got, how much he's got left in his legs. And already people have been saying, making comments like, well, you can't play him every week. He's an older boy. You can't make him play back-to-back games. He has to be rotated in and rotated out. You know, as far as what he's going to provide to the team structurally, positionally, I think that he's quite all right. But as far as the move goes, Scunny, do you want to rate it out of 10, the Willian move? 6? It's a 6 for me.
I'd say between 6 and 7. I'd say 6.5.
Stan, out of 10 for Willian?
I'd say between 5 and 6, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But the only reason why I'm saying 6.5 is because I think he's providing that little bit of competition for Pepe. And I think that's going to bring Pepe on more, the fact that he's got to work that little bit harder. I think last season, you know, I give him a bit of a break last season after Project Lockdown and Project Restart and everything else that happened. So I'll give him a bit of a pass. But, you know, it was only the Sheffield United game where I thought, actually, you know, he's actually done something amazing here. Since we've actually signed him, I think there's maybe 1-2 games I was really impressed by him last season. So I want to see that push for Pepe. You know,
is that proof?
More from Pepe.
Is the proof maybe not in the pudding already with Pepe? I mean, the way he came on against Sheffield, and even to the point where. You know, it's but even to the point where we then saw, as I said before, I'm not going to attempt to bring up the pass maps here because I haven't worked out how to be technically good enough to do it. But even when then Willian came into the midfield, onto the left of a midfield, and was even pulling into that 10 and was playing in conjunction with Pepe, having better passes in midfield, allowed us to actually see Pepe just going forth and doing what he does. Guys, just very quickly, out of 10, Pablo Mari, I'm going to give him a 4. Anyone got anything better than that to say about Pablo Mari? No. Higher, lower?
I don't think I'm going to go higher, but I do know that he was at Manchester City, wasn't he, when Arteta was there? So you never know. Arteta might bring something out of him.
I've not seen enough of Pablo Mari.
Well, that's the issue. He's only played a couple of games.
Let alone give him a 4-year contract.
Yeah. Well, he's only played a couple of games, but I think it wasn't up to Arteta, you know, to give him that full contract, was it? At the end of the day, that was down to the old regime, which we've already discussed.
But I think this goes back to what we were talking about at the start. Judging a signing can't be just on the level of the player. Because in the modern game, we have to take the contract into account as well. We have to take the wage structure into account. So if you get a player who's at a level of, say, 100 grand a week, and you're paying him 50 grand a week or 60 grand a week, you're paying him unders. That's fucking good business. That's good business. You get him in. If he plays well, you bump the contract up. You sit there and say, no, you've come in, you've played well. If you get a 50 grand player and you fucking pay him 100 grand, and then you can't shift the sap cunt for 3 fucking years until he's going to fuck off back to Germany on a free, you know, that is terrible business. So we have to take the, and we had this conversation about Aubameyang last season, Mike, where we were bringing up the concept of what he was going to be like in 3 years, and that we wouldn't regret the contract today, but would we be talking about the contract in 2 years? But in turn, then if he delivers enough in those first 2 years of the contract, the third year of a contract is almost like a thank you year as we wind you down, and because you essentially did what you needed to do for a period of time. Guys, the Cedric Suarez deal, I'm going to give it a 1. That is the stupidest fucking deal I've ever seen Arsenal do
when that first come in, I made a very good point. You know, I made a point to say that this is absolutely fucking stupid. You know, Southampton loaned him out. He went to Italy. He came back to Southampton. They wanted to get rid of him again. Similar to what Stan was saying. We're giving them money to loan him. You know, fuck. Why? Seriously, why? That's bad business right there. Oh yeah, we'll take him off your hands. You know. Oh, he's injured. Oh, yeah, we'll still take him off your hands. What a fucking stupid thing to do. You know, so I'm not even going to rate that one. That's in my minus rated shit. And so...
Yeah, had we waited until had we waited until this window and we got him in for free, and you look at him and think, okay, he can cover at right back or left back.
Yeah.
He's free. I get that. But the money, I get that. I can handle it. You know, I can handle it. But paying the money for someone that's injured, and no, what? I mean,
that's the worst bit of business I've ever seen Arsenal do. You know, and we have bought some shit over the years.
That's when it does perplex me when you see something like that happen, and we are laying people off. That's what I equate that to. You know, I don't equate it to when we buy players, right? Because you know, at the end of the day, the nature of the game in football is you've got to keep up with the Joneses. You know, it's all about points at the end of the day. So you have to buy players, but doing it in that manner and then you're laying people off, that makes no fucking sense at all.
No. Fucking fine. I'm sorry, Cedric one just makes me laughing. Like, seriously.
So yeah, I'd give that a score, -2 or -1 or something for that.
I don't know if our scale goes below 0.
Well, let's just give it a fucking 0. You know, I
think it's a 0. I think we can all agree it's a 0. And again, you know, there are people online talking about, you know, Cedric's delivery, Cedric's ball. You know, he played quite well against Liverpool.
Delivery, was he fucking worked for Amazon or UPS?
Regardless, guys, I think that, again, when we look at the structures of the deal and we look at the person, we look at the contract, we have to remove the football at some point. And the football right now is, you know, the least of what we should be looking at with Cedric Suarez. It's a garbage move.
Although he did score that goal in his debut, and I was like, "Oh, Maldini."
I think that's what most Arsenal fans said. And then
Scunny,
they watched him in his next game and for fuck's sake, not a shithead.
Scunny, again, in the previous part of the show, we were having a good, solid look at Ceballos' passing map and sparse passing stats. Now, granted, he is alone. The talk is that the deal has basically already been done. We're going to have to buy him at the end of this. Danny Ceballos, out of 10, very impressive. Hit it, have a chat about the guy who I think is one of the best pieces of business that we've done in quite a long time.
If I was to go when we first loaned him, and that first half of last season, I would have said, nah, send him back. We don't need him. After Project Restart and the start of this season so far, sign him up, definitely. And if I was going to say anything, I would say that's an 8 out of 10 for me, that for a signing. And I think he's going to just get better and better. And I often say a lot, and I say it through most of our chat, and, you know, that we have private chats in the chat groups that we have. He is what is working for us playing out from the back. He is that guy who gets it from the defense and pushes it forward. That's the difference that we have. When he comes off the pitch, we go long ball. So it goes straight to David Luiz or straight to Tierney, and he goes long ball all over the top. And what happens every time that happens? It always comes fucking back the other way, and we always start struggling. He is so for me, he is that reason why I'm really enjoying his football at the minute, and for that reason, he's pushing that ball forward from our midfield, from the back of our midfield to the top of our midfield, and that, for me, it's just priceless for us as Arsenal at the minute. That's what we need.
Stan, I think with Ceballos, what you end up seeing for this transfer is that you can see how he's managed to evolve his game to be able to play within this system. But I think, interestingly, with that signing, you can see how his natural game will actually work once we start moving into this, mysterious and elusive 4-3-3.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably echo a lot of what Mike had just said about Danis Ceballos. When he first came to the club, yeah, he did have that good game against Burnley, but for a long period of time after that, I didn't see a player that I felt was worth spending maybe 40 million euros on. And that was obviously pre-COVID, right? Before prices and stuff were affected. But since the restart, if you're talking about signing them up for, say, 22 million, somewhere around there, obviously now with the COVID fees, if you call it that, then I'd be all for it. He's really improved. He's one of the good things about the team that really makes us tick. He does have a tendency, though, sometimes to lose his position a lot and tends to sometimes follow the ball a lot. I've even heard him say that in interviews about himself, that that's something that he wants to work on, is to not always sometimes follow the ball and lose the shape. But yeah, I think him, along with Tierney, are one of the bright spots in the team at the moment. And if we could make that deal permanent for around about that money, I'd be all for it.
I think what it is at the end of this season, I think it's between 20 and 25 million we can get him for.
I think we paid 7 million in loan fees so far. I believe, or I can't remember whether it was 7 million in loan fees so far, or 7 million each time.
Even if we're buying for 23 million, that's 30 million for the player that he is at the minute.
He's a 50 million pound player. He's a 50 million pound player for me.
100%.
Guys, what would you evaluate him as if we were bringing him in at this level now? Let's say it was a fresh transfer. What do you think his transfer market value is? It's got to be between 40 and 50. I don't think it's more, and I certainly don't think it's less.
I would say it's probably towards the 40 mil mark. Yeah, I agree with that.
I wouldn't want to pay more than 40 myself.
No, but still, like I say, if we can get him for 30, it's a bargain.
But no doubt, a really good player and a player who I can see us using in multiple systems. A player who I think everyone got wrong as well. People keep talking about pushing him further forward and playing him in the 10, and I'm like, are you fucked? He's actually a deeper style 8. He's not even a forward running style 8. Are you guys with me on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I just said, he drives it from the back. So
he's also very good at nipping in and getting the ball off of players and then spinning around on the half turn and moving the ball quickly. I've seen him do that quite a lot, and that's quite impressive.
Loves a Cruyff turn. Loves a little dip and a Cruyff turn. Look, he reminds me of the good parts of Santi Cazorla. For example, when Santi came in that game against Man City and changed the way we played against Man City in a deeper role, not being a big, robust player, but being actually able to break a hard press with technicality and then spread the ball quickly. That's what Danny does. I don't see him as a massive final third entry ball player. No. I don't see him as a guy who's going to rack up Mesut Ozil level statistics. He might rack up Mesut Ozil level statistics.
I think he's got more than 3.2.
Yeah, because Mesut Ozil does fuck all, you morons. But anyway, really good business from I was having a heave through Twitter the other day, and my understanding is we got him on the loan on the proviso that we would buy next year. So I'm feeling that regardless, he's an Arsenal man. Just one other thing I really like about him, that fight he had with Eddie Nketiah? Yeah. I'm all for that. I'm fucking all for that, right? Spiny, competitive. I think it was an article from, I can't remember whether it was from Martin Keown, when he was saying that they basically used to have bust-ups on the training pitch every week when Arsenal were at their best. Right, they go in and 2-foot each other and get up and have a bust up because it was so competitive. Winning was so important. I love that. I love that about Danny, and I'm all for it.
As long as you don't feel off the training pitch, and after the training pitch, we all go to the canteen and have a laugh and a meal together. I get that. But what I also like about the profile of Danis Ceballos is that he's at an age as well where he's still going to improve. And I think Mikel Arteta and his coaching team, when Mikel Arteta came to us, one of the biggest things that he was lauded about him was that he's very good at improving players. So
yeah, definitely.
You can always count on Tony Turner to just drop into the comments.
I really think that there's going to be hopefully even more to come from him under the tutelage of Arteta and his team.
Yeah, the general consensus seems to be, guys, between 30 and 40 million pounds is the value. And I think with all the loan fees, that's what we're going to end up paying for him. I also think that with Danny Ceballos, we said this on the end of month podcast, because he scored very, very well in our positive points again. That I think he's actually more suited to the Premier League than he is to Spanish football anyway. I think he likes the high-intensity game. I think he likes the banging hard presses. That's where his technicality comes to the fore. I actually think Ceballos quite suffers when he plays against low blocks, because with no one coming at him, if you take it like boxing, he's a counter boxer. So he needs someone to be throwing punches at him to be able to, move the ball and be effective. Well, guys, considering this is a transfer pod, or was meant to be a transfer pod, we actually don't know what it is, because I have made the entire thing up on the spot at 7 o'clock in the morning, because Manny is still fucking nowhere to be seen and not answering any of his messages. So it must be taking him a very long time to get refunded for his flavorless chicken and waffles down at the local Morley's. But I guess what everyone came here for, and what we really should start talking about, is Thomas Partey. We've covered off on the fact that we thought that the deal was always on. What I want to start with, guys, is I want to start with the transfer fee. I'll throw it to you first, Stan. I think it's ended up being somewhere around 47 million pounds. I don't know what the wages are. I haven't seen it yet. But as far as value goes and profile goes, compared to our other signings and compared to our other contracts, and considering that we were talking about it's not just the value of the player, it's the value of the contract. For his profile, age demographic, contract length, how are you feeling about this signing?
If this was, if we were only going to make one signing, in this period of the window, and you're looking at Aouar and Partey, this is the one that I wanted.
Me too.
I'm not going to say that I've watched a hell of a lot of his games, but I've looked at the stats. I've seen some snippets. I'm looking at the profile, and he seems to have a profile that I think that we are crying out for. And one of the best things about bringing him in is the fee that we've paid, because I put this out on Twitter yesterday. I always felt that we kind of overpaid for Nicolas Pepe, and now that we have Pepe and Partey together, if you switch their fees around, it kind of balances themselves out for me now, because I think that we slightly overpaid for Pepe, but I also think that we've underpaid for the services of Partey. The money that we paid for Pepe, you could easily put that on Partey. And that if Atletico Madrid got him to re-sign a contract, that buyout clause would have doubled.
Did I just do something? Did it work?
I can see on the screen here.
Yes.
Arsenal midfielders.
It's reported, sorry, just quick, it's reported he's going to be on about 260k a week. Whether or not that's with his transfer, his signing on fee and everything else that goes on it.
Because I heard that when we were talking to Partey a month or so back, and we're talking about terms, that the conversation was that we would, I don't know what it was on at Atletico Madrid, but the talk was that we'd offered to treble his wages.
That would not surprise me. Would not surprise me, Stan. I think that one of the great sweeteners for Premier League football, I mean, look, let's speak bluntly. At Atletico Madrid, he is a chance of he's a Champions League player, not with just a chance, but a history of making finals, going deep, an apex team in La Liga in a beautiful city. What is going to get him across and over to Arsenal? What is going to make him want to allow Arsenal to trigger that release clause and go to Atletico Madrid and say, as per my contract, I need you to dissolve my contract today. I'm getting on a plane. I'm going and signing with Arsenal. Mate, that's cash. And we know that in the Premier League, that's driven by TV money. That's driven by, all of the marketing commercial agreements that exist within Premier League. Scunny, I've just brought up a shared screen. It's my first time doing it. I'm really proud of myself. So let's all give me a round of applause, because as everyone knows, I'm, slightly retarded. But Scunny, there's two, not that all of those statistics aren't glaringly in the favour of Thomas Partey. There's two statistics there that you, me, Manny, all the boys at Arse Bros have been banging on for a long time about what we've been missing. And those two statistics for me are duels won and dribbles completed. Put simply, Scunny, I see that as speed, power, and ball carrying. That's what those two things deliver for me. 64 dribbles completed, to Xhaka's 25, Joe Willock, who we consider to be a ball carrier, 21, and El Sidewaysy with 14.
Yeah, I think when you put this up originally on our chat feed, I was shocked at Ceballos, to be honest with you. I couldn't believe his recoveries, his tackles. Look, if you see the difference in everyone saying Xhaka's more of our deep midfielder, you see Ceballos there. He's got two more extra tackles than Xhaka. You've got, and obviously look at that as well. Nearly 10 more dribbles completed, which was pretty obvious anyway, to be fair for that. And he's one behind on interceptions. But I think talking about Partey, then yeah, that's something that we definitely need. If you look at the recoveries, the duels won, and the dribbles completed, compared to the rest of them on our team, yeah, it's something that we definitely needed.
Stand the man. As far as what we've been missing in this midfield for a long time, and the piece of the puzzle that we have been missing that predominantly stops us from being able to play a back four and therefore a midfield two or a midfield three, is our lack of motor, athleticism, and primarily ball carrying ability in the midfield. Someone who can pick up the ball and drive and actually upset the apple cart, get a team out of their deep lying structures or their pressing structures. How excited are you for this signing? I know you already said, if it was Partey or it was Partey for you all day. It was Partey for me all day as well. I think of these guys as foundation players who we can go into next season and then buy the icing for the cake. These guys are the cake.
Yeah. I mean, exactly how you just described it so eloquently just a few seconds ago. And I think exactly the reasons why this was the guy that I wanted. I think that what he does, he improves us immediately. And one of the things about Houssam Aouar that I picked up on was I was listening to Jeremy, who is the French correspondent on Laguna Talk, who watches a lot of French football. And he said the thing with Houssam Aouar is that if they're going for a really bad game, he's not the player that will drag the team up. He'll go down to the level of the team if they're having a bad day out. And we don't really need that at the moment. At the moment, what we need is what you've got up here. I mean, I'm looking at these stats and they're mouthwatering. They really are. I just hope that we keep this guy fit and we can have him in as many games as possible.
Scunny, age profile as a 27-year-old, so has turned 27 years old recently, in his position, I mean, really we're talking about prime years, 27, 28, 29, 30. This is a smart signing at what I think is an acceptable amount of money to have paid him, wages notwithstanding. Sometimes we have to look at the wages and say you've got to pay what you've got to pay to secure the guy out of here. I guess my next question for you, Scunny, is how do you pair this guy up? There's a lot of talk that people seem to think, like they did with Vieira for that matter, a lot of people think Vieira was a defensive midfielder. He wasn't. Gilberto was a defensive midfielder. Vieira was a pure box-to-box midfielder. Having a look at him and having a look at the other players who we do have in the team, in fact, they're all in front of us there. Our key starting midfielders are all in front of us in, Xhaka, Ceballos, El Neni probably being choice 1, 2, and 3. How do you see this getting paired up in either whether it be a 4-3-3 or whether it be a 4-2-3-1?
I think the only way this is going to work for us with Partey is playing the 4-3-3. You're going to have to have Xhaka and Ceballos next to him, I think, to make it work. I don't know how that 4-3-3 would sort of plan out because I don't think any of them are really defensive midfielders. Like we said about Vieira, Partey is more that Vieira type style box-to-box player. Ceballos is that sort of key playmaker, the pre-assister, as you've mentioned it before on here. Xhaka, I don't know if he'd be our DM, I don't know if that would work because he's not exactly a great defensive mid, is he? So I don't know how else it could work because with someone like Partey, I think you're going to need that defensive mid next to him for him to be in a 2. It'd work better in a 3 for me personally.
Stan, a lot of people are kind of talking about Ceballos Partey combinations. I think they're starting to get wet dreams of the reinvention of number 10. Whether that's Willian at 10 or Pepe at 10 or God forbid, the Twitch king Mesut Ozil. Do you see, I guess, us being able to actually employ that and be able to carry an extra midfield with the addition, or be able to carry that extra attacking midfield at the top of a diamond with the addition of Thomas Partey?
That's how I would like to go personally. A midfield centre three of Partey, Ceballos, because I think that having bought Ceballos, that Hassam Aouar role, we may be able to fill that internally. And I think Xhaka might be able to do something there. Maybe ESR, when we play other games but keep the same formation, say maybe in League Cup games or early Europa League games, maybe ESR can fit in there, or Willock may be able to fit in there to shore it up. I mean, that's not going to be perfect, but for your main starting 11, I would like to go with that three of Partey, Ceballos, and I would like to try Saka as that creative person, because I think that's where ultimately he's going to end up playing. And I don't know what it is about Saka. I think it's his physique, and he's quite strong in the ball. He really reminds me of Clarence Seedorf. And I could see him playing in that kind of a role. So in front of a back four, I'd like to see maybe Partey and Ceballos together in front of the back four, with Saka maybe ahead. And then you have your two wingers on either side.
Yeah,
Or whether you want to form that, that triumvirate up of the three, with one in the middle and the two outside. But that three in the middle, I'd like to see how that would work. Or even go with maybe one in front of the defense and then have two ahead of him for certain games, But we play so fluid anyway. We're never going to just
exactly what I was just about to say.
We're never going to say how we are on a piece of paper,
Yeah, sometimes getting caught up in formations, especially with Mikel Arteta, is folly, because it's not about the position you start in. It's about the areas that you run into, what your jobs are with the ball, what your positions are meant to be off the ball, the areas that you occupy, and how you block the passing channel. Look, guys, unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, because I'm not coming around to Granit Xhaka. I still think that he's a shit player, and I still think I don't think he's a shit player. I think he's a very limited player.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get off this shit. He's not shit, because we've seen that once players get put in systems that hide their flaws, allow them to actually excel in the things that they do, we can see starting to get better, but they will always be limited in different systems in different areas. I can see a 4-3-3. I actually think that Granit Xhaka needs to be moved out of the deepest laying role. I think it stresses him there. I think that you can see with Ceballos that he's actually becoming the preferred guy for the out ball because of his technicality on the out ball and his press resistance. So he actually has a tendency to drop back and actually receive the ball off the centre backs. I can actually see a world where Ceballos is playing almost our deepest role, with Xhaka playing more advanced on the left and actually using his passing ability where it doesn't matter so much that he gets run past because he's not the deepest lying player, and seeing Thomas Partey maybe in the other eight. That's kind of my feeling of what I think Mikel Arteta wants to do or is going to do. But, I mean, basically, guys, I can make cohesive midfield threes out of Partey, Xhaka, Ceballos. I can make a cohesive midfield three, especially, for example, against Sheffield sitting in a low block, like Stan said, out of Partey, Ceballos, Saka, Partey, Ceballos, Willian. And what I'm really interested to see is I've been calling it for a long time, I like Pepe out of the middle. I like Pepe being able to run in both directions. I think he gets very hamstrung out on the right. He gets very one-dimensional out on the right. He's deadly when he comes back into the middle. But all things that we're going to see over the course of time. The fuck do you get rid of this fucking thing? No, I made it bigger. Wait. It's smaller again.
What are you looking at doing? Getting rid of this screen?
Bollocks, I made it the whole thing. I did it.
I've done it for you. Jesus Christ.
Oh, you did it for me.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't going well for me, Mike. It was.
No, it really wasn't.
We could have been here all day. Overall, guys, to finish up, I thought we'd go round the room, and we would do two things. Now, having obviously got our transfer business done, I thought we would have either a reassessment of what our finishing position is, up or down, or what we thought it was. And to start off with, I thought we would just give the overall transfer window a score out of 10. So that's ins and outs included. So I'm going to kick it off while you guys have a ponder, because I thought about this. I'm actually going to give it a very confident 7 out of 10. I think that's a 7 out of 10 for us. And the reasons why I've done that is I think a lot of the outs that we were unable to get done weren't necessarily within our power, within our mandate to force it to get done. The things I'd like to see is I would like to see a couple of loan moves go out, whether it's out on loan, Nelson out on loan, Willock out on loan. But overall, I've been left. I know Manny gave this window a 5, just for example. He thinks that the lack of outs is dire for us, but I'm going to give it a nice confident 7. Scunny?
I'm going to sort of go with what you said, but I'm going to give it a 6 because, similar to what Manny said out of his 5, I don't think it was exactly a 5. I think the Partey deal swinged it upwards for me. It was a 5. I'm going to go for a 6. Well, actually, to be fair, it was probably lower than 5 if he didn't come in.
Well, I'm going to slide right in. I'm going to slide right in the middle of you there, both of you, with a 6.5. And I'm glad that Aubameyang has re-signed, and I'm glad that we brought in Thomas Partey and Gabriel. But the lack of outgoings, had we been able to somehow do a little better there, it may have seen us bring someone else in to help bolster us for the season ahead. And like we touched on before, the Pablo Mari and the Cedric Suarez, if we're going to include that in this sort of period of time, again, that two bits of bad business. Also, I would even throw in there extending David Luiz for another year. For me, again, I think that could have been avoided and other things could have been done. So I'm going to give it 6.5.
Well, look, I had Arsenal predicted for 6th this season, which I copped a huge amount of flack for, but I like to be a realist. And with the addition of Thomas Partey, I'm willing to bump us up a spot. I'm going to bump us up to 5th. Still not making Champions League football, despite everyone's now desire to think that Arsenal are going to somehow win the Premiership because we brought in the next Patrick Vieira. Please don't say it. Every time we say that, the fucker gets injured and mauled and never turns into what he's meant to do. So I still think we're going to be in that group, like I said at the start, that mini league between us and Leicester and a very dangerous-looking Everton. I think we're going to be in and around there, but I'm willing to give us 5th. Scunny, where did you have us and where do you put us now?
I put us at 7th. I believe I thought we'd probably get one place better than what we did last season. I'm still going to say 7th.
Fucking depressing cunt.
I'm sorry, guys, but I'm going to still say 7th. I think Partey's a good signing. I just don't think it's enough.
Stan the man. Where did you have us? Where did you have us and where do you put us?
I'd probably agree with you. I thought that we would definitely have we would get into the Europa League, and I was saying maybe around 6th. And I think, just like yourself, Max, with the addition of Partey, we may be able to do one better. But like we said earlier on in the show, I do think that there is an outside chance that we could squeak a Champions League. Maybe that's winning the Europa League. Maybe that's getting into a position where we get into the playoff for the Champions League. But I think it's possible, but it's not a nailed on. It's not like, we're going to walk in happy days.
Very much beholden on the other teams, I think, to have poor seasons. I think if that squad plays to its maximum ability and every team above us plays to its maximum ability, if everyone plays the ability of their squad, I've almost got to be down with Scunny. I think that's maybe the 6th or 7th best squad in the league. I think Everton may have overtaken us now in overall squad strength. Look, Spuds can go and fuck themselves. Fuck Spuds. I hope you fucking get relegated, you fucking Spud cunts with your dumb fucking faces. Fuck off. And
you went about Harry Redknapp last night on the.
Oh my god, Harry was number one. Harry was drunk. Like I've never seen a drunker fucking red-faced pundit in my life. And him going on about that squad can win a premiership. Do me a fucking favor, Harry, you fucking donut.
What are you talking about?
Well, when he was saying, when he was talking about Arsenal, he was saying like, "Oh, this, that, and the other." I said, "Oh, you're a bitter old cunt, aren't you?" And then he started saying, then he turned around and said like, "Oh, well, Tottenham, yeah, definitely. I think they're contenders to win the Premier League." I was like, "You're a fucking deluded old cunt."
Well, all right, boys, I think that we've done a pretty good job there of breaking down some fairly key elements of the transfer window. We've gone back and had a look at the poor business that has been done. We've had a look at the failings of Gazidis and Raul and Mislintat as well. We have justified, even though we're annoyed about the signings not going out that we expected to go out, we have justified and compromised those things and come to the decision that those are going to run their course next season. We've had a look at the ins, the loans, the validities of the contracts that have been signed. We've had a look at Thomas Partey and his stats and what he might bring. And like a pack of 3 fucking depressed Arsenal fans, none of us have us getting into Champions League. And that is exactly what an Ask Brothers Rankcast is all about. Stan the Man at Stan_the_man68. That's because Stan doesn't like a 69. He likes a 68. He'll tell you how it gets secret on a different podcast. You can see Stan almost every time you open the internet. Regardless of the time of day it is or what podcast, you will see Stan. Just even if it's not about Arsenal, I expect that I would turn on a podcast about aeroplanes and there would be Stan's face
there you go.
back at me. In some ways, Stan, you can really push Dan Potts on the podcast prostitute king of the
Stan and Dan, that has a show for you. That has a nice ring to it as well.
Mate,
and
it sounds like a cash job to me.
If anyone's going to be around in, 3.5 hours or so, you can catch me with Ryan, your counterpart on this channel, the Bearded Gooner, and Rohan on the Same Old Arsenal USA, where I'll basically just be saying everything I just said today here. So
it really is like a STD orgy with all of us. It's like everyone's on everyone's show all the time. If one of us has chlamydia, guess what, boys?
We've all got it.
We're all going to have to go down the dock and take the 2 pills. Hat in hand, shamefully telling him that you all shag Dirty Betty.
Mine is more of a yeast problem, but I'm not going to go into that now.
Well, that's what happens when you spend too much time with the Arsenal luchador. He'll lead you down a bad path. He was yelling at me the other day.
He broke his leg in a tag match. He's not about at the moment. He broke his leg down in El Paso in a tag match.
Too much exercise bike, mate. Too much exercise bike. Scotty Mike, the guys can find you at Mike Ski, and you'll be back with a preview show in 2 weeks because there's no football.
It'll be a couple of days before the Man City game, so I think that's being played on the 17th of this month. So it'll be a couple of days before then. So yeah, it'll be more UK time-ish rather than Aussie time because you're fucking backwards.
We are backwards. So. We are backwards. All right, guys. Well, this has been an Ask Bros Rankcast. It's actually been a Manny Riz hot topic. That cunt's not here. We don't know where he is. We're expecting to have some kind of a phone conversation with him at some stage since he set all this up. We bumbled and stumbled our way through it. Thank you to the guests. Thank you to everyone in the chat box. And we will catch you on the next Ask Bros Rankcast.